Okay, welcome back everybody to what will be our final hour of the Outcast Order Dungeons and Dragons campaign season 1 wrap up discussion where we get to or I get to bitch and stitch. We all get to bitch and stitch? I don't know. We get to tell you what it was like for us and hopefully you get some enjoyment. If you don't, oh well, stop watching. Anyway, um so one of the things uh, being new, the two of us. Do you? And I want actually, Sragg, or David, how many times have you DM'd?
I've DM'd, I think, 3 times previously, all lasting possibly 2, 3 sessions.
Okay, so actually that.
I usually end up killing everybody too soon.
Okay. I'm just gonna write myself a note here because that spawns some extra questions. So my first question or kind of curiosity is, as you've played this character for 33 weeks, and now that we've started 2 other campaigns, we're doing a Forgotten Fates, which is also a D&D 3.5 campaign, and a Dark Heresy campaign. Do you as characters feel like you've learned, or you're more prepared for that campaign? I guess maybe it's more for Ryan and myself with Forgotten Fates.
I feel that I'm more prepared for any of the other campaigns. When we started playing, even week 1 of Forgotten Fates, I felt more comfortable in my skin as far as who my character was. And again, I did write an extensive backstory for the character, and I fleshed him out just like I did with this character, because that's what I do and what I enjoy. But I just felt more at ease with, okay, this is what I can do. This is where I'm comfortable. And here's the kind of, like, I was more apt to the way of thinking outside of the box and what I could do and how I could feel around that. So I really, I feel this has been a huge help. I mean, there's certain aspects of the game that are still completely foreign to us because of the speed to which we went through this, as far as not necessarily the it was like the constant like rush, like push push push, oh, on to the next fight, get to the next room, shove you through this dungeon
Yeah.
room into the next one. In you go. It's like, okay, shut the door. Face
Yeah,
him off against that guy.
I definitely feel in a similar way. Like I feel a lot like with my next character, it's more. I kind of have an idea of like what can happen now, so I'm more, not. I'm less cautious, but not really because I kind of know that bad stuff can happen because I've experienced it once before, and I also feel a lot more comfortable with the monsters that might be thrown at us. Although we've been seeing an entirely undead flavored type set of mobs, so there's probably an entire slew of are you telling me to fuck you? That was for Shrek. There's
Well, she has
probably an
one say.
entire
I can't see
slew
it.
of mob types that we haven't seen.
Wait.
So we're back, by the way, Andre.
Oh yeah, I figured as much since you were going on a spiel about. I was trying to see what Riclamin was posting. What were you posting? Put it up again. I can't see it.
He just told me it told Shrek to fuck off.
Oh, okay.
There was another message.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to hook up a video thing. Go ahead.
Anyway, so I definitely feel more prepared with Dermot, my Forgotten Fates monster.
What was the general question so I get a concept of what's happening? Or statement.
The question we were asking if you feel more prepared in the other campaign or new campaigns now that you've gone through one. And to add
Has
on to that
Riclamin
one,
answered yet?
Yeah, he's answered. So as you think about that, I have something that's kind of related, and I've been trying to watch a lot of streams on Twitch with Dungeons and Dragons. Like one of the ones I love to watch is the Itme JP streams, especially with Neil DMing and Steve or Silent or I forget his handle, but Steve, and they're 2 very different DM styles. and it's neat to kind of see. And I would think that learning is not only about the system, but your DM. Like, we've learned the way David runs a campaign, so we can
Mhm.
adapt to it properly. Whereas when I watch Neil or say Steve, it's completely different. They're all three different really amazing flavors that I would enjoy to play in anyway. But I think as a character, you learn that's what this world and this is the way this world works. So that's an interesting spin on being prepared for future games. If I go into a D&D campaign with another DM, yeah, I'm going to know the system, but I'm going to be learning a whole new style.
Right. So, what was the base question again overall? And
Are you
I'll
more
give my
prepared?
perspective on
Do you feel you're more prepared for future games?
Now,
in general or D&D games? Are you talking about just in general tabletop?
It could go both ways.
Before
Okay,
you go to that, I
go
want
ahead,
to
Sragg. Yeah.
add one thing to what you were saying about flavors of DMs. And just so everyone knows in the next campaign too, don't expect the same kind of speed you've seen in this one. I'm fleshing that one out quite a bit. You won't have
Yeah.
the same. There'll be a lot of changes.
Yeah, for those who don't realize that, like the progression of our characters in this campaign was absurd. It doesn't make any sense. There's no way in the 33 week session that we should be hitting epic level characters.
No.
Like, the amount of stuff that was thrown at us constantly was insane, and it made for a really fun campaign. It made for sometimes a really stressful campaign, but overall fun. But yeah,
Definitely a wonderful crash course.
I am definitely looking forward to taking it back a bit and enjoying. And now that we've kind of practiced it a bit, maybe the RP elements. And I think if anybody watches Forgotten Fates, like I don't think we left the bar.
No.
We spent the first session in the bar. We didn't leave or do anything. It was all discussion. So,
And
yeah,
no
it's
one died.
a different flavor, and that's kind of an interesting point, Sragg, that you're as a DM. Do you find the players adjust your flavor of campaign a lot, or because
Yeah,
the
if
difference in
you've
that
got,
campaign is Ardo, our new player, or Josh, or no, Chris, sorry, and is he changing it, or are you consciously trying to slow it down?
honestly,
One
it's
more
not
question,
just
Sragg, before you begin. How many other campaigns have you played with Ardo in real life?
I've never DM'd for Ardo before. I have played alongside Ardo
Okay.
in many campaigns.
Okay.
And he's pretty good. He works off of his other players.
Does he usually play a rogue, or is he usually akin to other characters?
Rogue or a druid. He's usually a rogue or a druid. More often than not, he plays that rogue. Just like for me, I normally play
that rogue.
orc.
Quote unquote, that rogue.
That rogue has so much
So,
history.
sort of a tangent question. Are you looking forward to killing that rogue? Is that your goal as a DM?
We'll leave that for later.
Okay, fair
This is a
enough. I'll take it as
delicacy. But to answer that question about the play, it's not so much the players that drive the campaign. I think it's the characters they're playing. If I've got a group of characters playing that are more like for instance, the bard, that is a social flower. The rogue, he exists to steal everything else that everyone else went out and adventured for. In the case of that will slow the campaign's pace down quite a bit because you'll spend a lot more time in town.
Yep.
And which can be its own challenge. But also you won't be running into basically the Outcast Order campaign was a series of supervillains. That you don't really run into them that often. So I just kept like, well, I gave them some awesome stuff. Well, I'm going to throw something at them. We'll get into that here in a minute. But yeah, look for a very big change in direction. More
Maybe
realism
more
in the sense.
subtle or more, I don't want to say heady because it's maybe not the word, but a more political kind of, a lot more flavor that way too. So that could be interesting.
Yeah, well, and
People will have names.
Exactly.
I'm telling you,
And in
come
Sragg's
up,
defense too,
get your
there's
paper
only
ready.
if he's grabbing like items that have already been created, and there's already sort of this mythos around certain things, and he only has so much to work from. So he doesn't want to spoil it all in one campaign.
Right.
So do you have to add on to that, Smurrrrh? But do you feel more prepared? Do you think
Um,
has
yeah,
this
sorry,
changed the
I
way
will
you
add on to
play?
that. Yeah, I mean, I've played a couple. I've played through D&D. Actually, my first tabletop experience outside of the whole spectrum of video games in my early childhood was Shadowrun. And Shadowrun was terrific in that regard. We sort of did a whole sort of meshing between the two. We also did D&D, which was also great. It was my first actual tabletop D&D character. I might have mentioned this earlier. Was a sorcerer who I was basing off my actual DDO sorcerer, except it was a gnome and not a drow. And but yeah, anyway, I find that personally playing any tabletop game helps me sort of uh how do I say this? Externalize my characters in other campaigns and how in my mind how those characters are sort of facilitated into the environment they're in. I've played D&D, Shadowrun, some GURPS, some GURPS. What was the other one? All kinds of stuff. Some riffs. It was a
Hmm.
modified riffs, but it was great. Um, all kinds of different tabletop styles. But I find that personally, uh, the more you sort of think about how you want to fit into the general scenario helps you evolve your character in that regard. And the more you play around your general concept and sort of listen to the way your other fellow players are playing their characters will help you facilitate your own ideas and how you feel your character fits into this specific world. And if the campaign's starting out, it doesn't hurt to sort of ask your DM a couple questions. How do how do you feel that if you have a specific idea for a character, if you feel that that character will fit in properly into that realm that you're playing, or ideas that even your DM can feed off of that will influence you on what directions you want to take your character if you're not familiar with the tabletop system or whatever or whatever system that you're playing your character in. um, any character in any campaign will always help you go into the next campaign or help you facilitate your other experiences in the future, in my opinion.
Cool. Now, um, you touched on this that you've before, Dave, that you had only the campaigns that you DM'd had only been a couple weeks, and I think I got a question in chat. Chat, we'll do real quick. Sabathius has asked this twice, and I almost forgot it a second time. He's asking about Adara. Is she gone
Poor
this
Dara.
campaign? Yes, Adara died, and we had every intention of bringing her back. We ended up with some real life scheduling conflicts, so we weren't able to get her in the stream again. So she, rather than hold up the campaign, she resigned, stopped playing from the
Bowed
campaign,
out.
bowed
Yeah,
out,
she bowed out.
and and Sragg worked in a way to make sure that the characters would not be trying to save her anymore. She,
Yeah.
spoiler alert if you haven't watched previous sessions, her body was stolen. She was resurrected by the puppet master who we just killed in last week's episode, and he actually sent the resurrected Adara at us, and we red misted her.
Yeah, for anybody who's curious, I talk to Adara every now and then. It's Sragg and I play on some other servers that her and her husband are hosting, and they do
Minecraft, yeah.
some Minecraft stuff, and they play Smite. So she's still in real life, alive and well. She just has some other things to facilitate right now, other than the D&D characters that she had.
Yeah, I wish she could have came back because I felt I had some really good RP moments with her. Like we had a good time together. I think
Yeah,
whatever it was, we clicked, and so I definitely missed her. Okay, so get back to the original, or what I was about to ask was the longest campaign. Now, I know we've talked about it a bit, and you mentioned it a couple of times, Andre, that you've never had a campaign go this long, or actually to the finale of an actual arc, shall we say. And then Shrek, you just mentioned that you DM something in the last couple of weeks, and I'll start first, and I think maybe the reason, because every week I looked forward to this, and I find myself every week, like in the downtime at work or something, I'd be like, you know what, I wonder. I found myself thinking about like what would we do next, and it was really interesting to have that like level of like I was hooked on the story. It was really cool, and so does that happen? And because I've never played a in person tabletop, does that kind of thing happen with in person tabletops? Like, what made it different? Was it the fact that we did a virtual tabletop, that it was so easy to connect with each other, and didn't matter what was going on, you could just, as long as you made sure you were at your house at this time, you could play? Is that the difference?
Is this directed towards me specifically? Or?
Anybody who wants to jump in.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. Me personally, any kind of tabletop game is great, whether it's virtual or in person. Like I said, I played GURPS and some other ones, and some Deadlands. Deadlands was fun. Yeah, it's just great to sort of it's a creative outlet. If you don't already have a creative outlet of some kind, whether it be, as I mentioned earlier, Minecraft or something that lets you express your own creativity in some aspect of your life, or even if you already do and you want to sort of expand that into another horizon, this is a great way to do it. It's like story time, but you get to create your own character into the story. If you've ever had someone read you a story and you feel like you're in the story and you want to participate, this is your way to do it. These kind of tabletop games, and yeah, it's just terrific.
Yeah, just to add on to that point a bit too, I don't consider myself a particularly creative individual, but I found as soon as I had a set of rules or a set of boundaries and limitations, it was just like sparks started to fly. It was just
And that's creativity right there. I mean, you might not want to admit to it, or that
no,
you
and
might not feel that you have a
like,
lot of creativity.
before that,
yeah.
I didn't think I was creative, but then I just realized that I just needed a bit more of a framework to get those wheels turning.
Exactly. It helps you think
Yeah.
and sort of see
But
outside of the spectrum.
is there
And
something
then,
different with an in person or virtual that you think that because this campaign went right till finale, whereas from what I've heard from you guys, they kind of just fizzle out the in person ones.
I think that you would have had the same experience if we were all sitting around a table in someone's
I
basement doing
agree.
this.
I agree. I agree. The same storytelling experience, but why did this one keep going? Is what I'm trying to hone in on. Like,
I don't know. Me personally, I felt like I wanted to
I'm not
share the
complaining.
story, and it was a compelling story, and and we've had some interaction with the people on Twitch, and I really love that. Twitch people who are watching, or anybody who's watching on YouTube, we love to hear your feedback, or even if you don't like us, we don't care. We'll just read about it and continue on and do our thing. And it just helps facilitate our story, and we like to keep you entertained, and it almost inspires us to keep going, and it facilitates our own creativity.
Yeah, that's
So
true. That's a different aspect that we don't necessarily. I forgot to maybe mention is there's a whole like an outside like we have an audience, which is something that you don't have
yeah.
sitting in person. You don't have people. Well, maybe you have people staring in your window, but
I
hopefully
don't
not.
yet, but I mean, it might happen,
what
right?
what are they doing over there? It's
What
a
are they
cult.
doing in there out here
Oh my
chanting and
god,
weird
he's so
lights?
playing in his house. It's so great.
But
Yeah, that's it too.
as
Yeah,
far as the what I was talking about, the ones that I DM'd before and they fell apart, that was mostly my experience with it because I would throw encounters that really is guidelines as far as the rules were concerned. So there was a lot of pain and suffering. Talked about having the rules as a framework, and then you went out with the creativity from that. The framework seemed to just kind of get in the way.
Sragg,
yeah.
do you
So
feel
you've
that since we've had I'm gonna sorry
it's
interrupt you,
okay.
Colby.
Go.
Sragg, do you feel since we've had an online quote unquote audience that you've sort of tried to work things in our favor a little more to facilitate the story to continue it on, or?
Yeah, that might have helped me quite a bit. I mean, it's like there's people watching and they're attached to these guys, and the guys that are playing the character are attached to them too. And as much fun as it is to sit there with them and smash them, maybe we should let this go out and see how it works.
Now,
Uh,
and I have to ask on this because if you're going outside of the framework, or also known as the rules, did you experience the same set of um, rules lawyering that you might have experienced from us, more
Oh,
or
before?
less? Yeah, or does that take on a
I'm,
different? Does that take on a different tone when it's face to face? Like
when
maybe
it's face to
maybe
face,
people
you get a
suppress a
lot.
bit what they're saying because they're like, well, he's right here. If I really piss him off, he is actually going to hit me.
No, you have a lot of rules lawyering going on in person as well. It's
Yeah.
And as far as campaigns, like you said, fizzling out, I had one and I played Ardo stepped into this one. So there was people coming in and out of this campaign. It went on for almost 2 years, up every
Okay,
weekend.
so that's a fairly long one.
So they can go for a while. And that DM, his stories, it was. I mean, I would love to think that I can get near that level at some point in my career of DMing. He was
You know what, Sragg? And in all reality, in the campaigns that I've played in the past, in real life, that are not webcasts and all this, fandangle technology.
Fancy
Girl, my
technology.
lawn.
Hoity
Yeah.
toity.
The only reason that I personally have felt that they have fizzled out is because of other real life constraints or things have happened outside Spectrum. And for the most part, the majority of us are just enjoying it so much that we're trying to arrange our lives around it to
You
some
know what?
extent. So
Yeah.
And you know what? And I'm an idiot for not realizing this before. This entire session, I've been working out of 2 cities, and we've never had to drop a campaign because I've been traveling.
No, it's true.
You, Andre, have been playing from your house and from your camp. Never
Yeah.
because you're at camp did you drop a session. It was like literally, we could not be at a place with an internet at scheduled time was the only reason we canceled the session.
yeah. I mean, I love doing this, and again, as I mentioned earlier, I keep saying that. It lets me have a creative outlet to my own, world. I can sort of create these characters from within my own mind and export them, and it's a great creative release if you have that sort of urge that you need to expunge. And again, if you've played other MMOs and you feel online games, for example, and you feel like you've been limited, this is the complete obliteration of that. You can do whatever you want as long as you have someone and a group of people that are willing to facilitate that the desire that you have to sort of live out this character realization that you have.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's
You,
great.
you speak of creative release too, and
Yeah.
it's a creative release, and it's really interesting because it creates. I find the whole setting or the whole concept of playing a game with um, a bunch of your closest friends is that it's a safe environment where you can come up with an idea and explore it and be creative without someone go, oh, that's stupid, nobody's gonna like that.
Yeah.
But it's completely opposite of that. It's like they're like, yeah, that's really cool, and then this happens, and like, yeah. So
Yeah.
there's that to it, and then the Twitch community has been great watching us online. Like that's yeah. So
Yeah, well, it's like going back to the early days. You sit around a fire and people tell stories and other people participate. It's that whole sort of tribal interconnection that happens. And I don't know how I can explain it, but it's fun. It's a great release and it's a good time for everybody.
now I'm gonna move on to a question that's probably gonna get Rick talking a little bit because he's been pretty salty the last couple episodes related to what I think is this general question. But in general, how did you feel the campaign or the encounters? So when we fight the mobs, how did they feel? Like, did you feel they were too overpowered? Did you feel like we walked in and we just like red misted everything we saw? Did
Now,
we go a
Where's
little
the
bit
red
of
mist
both
to you?
ways?
when I wrote this down, this wasn't my question. This was Sragg's question.
So I think Sragg might have got a partial answer this week.
Yeah, he did get an earful off of this one. I really did feel like no encounter was easy. At
None?
no point was any encounter simple. I think what ended up happening and made encounters simple was sheer luck. We either had the luck of the die with Andre and Smurrrrh critting things,
Chaos.
or Colby just happening to have the right spell and like standing by a mountain just to squash a character completely. And if it wasn't for that, we would have been fucking in big trouble. So I really don't feel like it was like a fair fight. Most of the time, I feel like it was. We were at our fucking work cut out for us, and
You know what? And I agree with you,
succeeded.
Ryan. I don't want to cut you off. Sorry, but
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say. I was just gonna wrap up. That like I felt we succeeded by luck, and not necessarily by master plan or design.
Exactly, and I agree with you in that regard. And I feel that a lot of that, in part, is to Sragg's willingness to progress the story in the way that he feels that everyone will benefit.
Yes.
Yeah.
To further that
To a
point,
certain extent, he has sort of bent the rules and allowed for things to change, and sort of allowed he's had an open mind in regards to what we want to do and facilitate our own story.
yeah, I feel like if we want to talk purely about encounters, yeah, I felt they were hard. Did I think they were too hard sometimes? Maybe once or twice, but not. Now that I've gone through it and I'm looking back, it's like it wasn't really that it was too hard. I was just a noob and I didn't know what I was doing, and it'd be much different if I knew what I was doing. And I lost that train of thought, that derailed. So let's talk about chat for a second. Desinia in chat again has commented that at a couple points she thinks she thought she saw horns coming out of your head, and I agree. And you missed this, Desinia, but during the last break, when Colby was dead on the ground, he cackled, and you swear to God it was the devil. Like, it was the most evil, maniacal laugh. And I wish to God that I had that recorded.
I had to go to the washroom, but I had to get up and walk away from the computer for a minute. I don't know if that was caught in full scene or anything, or like where did he go? But it was like, I am boiling over with rage right now.
A lot of
You
the
know
times
what?
I don't see
Get
that stuff,
away
yeah.
from the computer.
But despite his vindictive methods in certain regards, he always allows you to have a reconciliation in some sort.
Yeah, he's
There-
a benevolent god.
Yeah, sorry, this was the point that I lost. It always, even when it felt like this was like the most ridiculous, not ridiculous, this was the most hard and horrible situation we're in, never did it feel like this was not what was supposed to happen in the story.
And rather,
It was always, this is
it
exactly
is-
what is supposed to be happening.
or he has allowed you the opportunity as a DM to continue on. If that's what you really want,
Yeah.
you can continue on.
Right, but as much as I might think an encounter is too hard or too difficult, it was like, no, like, this isn't like him just rolling up the nastiest thing he can think of to kill us. This is actually what would happen based in the story.
Yeah, exactly. But
Well.
in the event that you don't succeed,
Yeah.
you have these other options that he's gonna facilitate in there to continue.
You
it
might
on.
have these other ones fooled, Sragg, but you don't have me fooled.
And there's even some points where
It is
he
the
had to hold
nastiest
our
thing you
hand
can come up with.
because at one point he gave Smurrrrh a get out of jail free card, and we were all
A
too
couple
stupid
times.
to use it.
Yeah, a couple times. And so anybody who who has been watching, there's a couple times when I've sort of been resigned to the fact, okay, Smurrrrh's gone, but you know, I'd like to keep people watching and interested, and I like playing Smurrrrh. So a lot of times, Sragg and I in private chat will be, sort of working out ideas to how we can continue on the Legend of Smurrrrh as a character, and even the other characters, and it's a lot of fun.
Horns.
Yeah,
Come on.
horns. You have horns, but you also have a halo above the horns.
Thank you.
It's a little tilted and dented and battered up, but yeah, it'll pass.
When the question comes, is he evil? It's like, yeah, but is he on
You know
our
what?
side? Mostly.
It's that whole concept of when someone does wrong, you're gonna remember the wrong more than when they do right. You know what I mean? If you do a shit ton of bad stuff, people are gonna remember that a lot more than all the shit ton of good stuff that you've done.
Yeah,
So it's pretty memorable, is what you're saying.
Either way.
Yeah, it's definitely memorable.
Never
and
mind.
You know what?
You missed what I was getting.
Sorry, go ahead, Colby.
It's definitely memorable, and as much as I might be salty, or I might be ticked off, or pissed, or just mad at the world for what happened, or the shitty dice rolls. One of the best therapies for me has been editing the videos afterwards, because literally any time I pause to find a break, it's the four of us with these shit-faced grins on our face, laughing our asses off. So it's like you're saying, remember I'm all pissed off about the bad times, but it was the entire thing is filled with us laughing our asses off. So I'm like, okay, I really must be enjoying this. Why am I so upset?
Oh, exactly, and that's what you're saying. Why do you keep doing it, or why do you feel, or how do you feel the characters change, or it's fun. It's so much fun.
I have felt have been a couple times where the encounters have been impossibly designed, and in his credit, he has saved us from those encounters.
And that's what I'm trying to say. We've been saved a couple times.
Oops. Oh,
from his own design.
He's like, oops, this is too masterfully designed. Oh fuck, I'm gonna kill them all.
Well, turns out you resurrect from that random person you encountered, and
this thing she gave you is not even supposed to work that way, but you know what? So you don't come over here and kill me, and we're gonna resurrect you.
And I'm not trying to sing praise on the Sragg in any regard, so don't get your ego built up, Sragg. But you really have thought things through, and your experience shows that, okay, if I do manage to screw them over, I'll give them an opt-out card that allows them to continue.
I'm going to have my fun, but once I'm done, I better let them have some fun too. Same kind of train of thought. What was everybody's saltiest moment?
Aside
go ahead, Colby or Riclamin.
Aside from the last 2 weeks, I have to go with something different, because the last 2 weeks for me have been pretty
There's a lot of salt on those.
Yeah, there's a lot of salt there. And for different reasons, but the similar theme just keeps coming up through all of it. Saltiest moment.
Your sign might say something about that.
I would say for me, my saltiest, I was pretty salty when I died this episode. I was infuriated.
Yeah, did you get one shot too?
2 shot, pretty close.
By your party member?
No.
I didn't mean to.
I don't know if I was salty about when that happened to you so much as holy crap, I gotta get out of here.
I was like, all right, it's time for my turn. Oh wait, no, it isn't.
I think I don't know if I've had I probably had a couple salty moments, and maybe it's a
couple
testament.
Salty moments.
Maybe I was gonna say, okay, I've had a lot of salty moments, and maybe it's a testament that I can't actually remember any rate now that how little they really meant to me. But I would have to say throughout the entire campaign, it's kind of like a salty arc. Just the idiot NPCs. Seriously. How do they get up and not kill themselves? They're so dumb. They should have burnt down the house while trying to cook breakfast.
Welcome to the human race,
I just
man.
recalled. I remember having a salty moment, and it wasn't with any of you. It was with one of our other players. and how it was when we first walked into the manor, and our monk friend was exploring the manor with exceptional speed, as if he knew where everything was, like he had just left it all behind.
I think
remember
he was having an off day.
yeah, that was a salty moment for me. It wasn't like my saltiest, but I mean, for me, it was really irritating to have someone like blow past you and be like, "Ah, nothing here. Next room."
And I think in part of that is, if I'm not mistaken, you had part in creating with Sragg that environment that you were involved in that scenario.
Well, I
It
didn't
was
have-
his house.
Yeah, exactly.
It was the fact that when I had brought up the title of ownership, and he's like, "You don't own this house.
Yeah.
We're trespassers." I'm like, "No,
Destiny
it's-
in chat.
And I understand how you felt it was
inheritance.
crucial to your storyline. That I mean,
Yeah.
as a character and things that I've portrayed to Sragg, I feel a little disappointed in certain aspects. I'm like, okay, I want this. I'd like, let's say, not want, but I'd like this and this to happen. And no, I'm doing this, and they just stomp all over the concept of the ideas that you've had. You're like,
Yeah.
I wanted to discover that as a character. What have you done to me?
You were saying, Colby?
I was going to say, Destiny in chat is noted. Recommend you need to go back to when Smurrrrh one-shots you and look at your face.
What?
No.
I think if you could actually frame the
Like I
saltiest
said-
you've ever been, this is the salt face.
Like I said,
Yeah.
out of take out the last 2 weeks,
Yeah.
because the last 2 weeks for me have been really hard to deal with.
Shrek, now what about you as the DM? Because like, there's been some stuff that you've thrown at us that we've made seem incredibly trivial, and you've spent like the entire week crafting it, and it just gets obliterated, or in some cases crushed by a giant rock. What
There
were
goes
your
Frank.
salty?
Honestly, I play that off as being more irritated than I am. I love the creativity when something like that happens. It's like they just trivialize that encounter by destroying them with a giant boulder. Point to the players.
Let's cut to today's situation where we walk into the final room and Colby's like, "Smoke! No, I'm holding up that area."
I loved it. It was
Nuh-uh.
great. I usually only get salty in. Wow, have I gotten really? Yeah, I have. You can tell when I do. You can tell. I think.
I think you start flipping through pages, looking for
I've been
rules.
able
The
to.
lawyer.
You know what?
So
I've
when
only
you-
ever seen you salty when it was with one of our previous players, I think.
Mhm.
Okay. Yes,
There was
and
a,
you know
a
what?
rules debate.
That's probably the saltiest. I have to agree with Colby. That's probably the saltiest rule.
And you know what? And I will say this to any player that wants to play: when you're playing with a DM, once he's made a ruling that this is the way it's going to happen, and he's acknowledged that he's heard your rules lawyering and understands it, that is the way it is. That is the goal or the function of the DM. If you don't like it, it is time
Agree
to
to
leave the
disagree,
campaign.
Move on.
Yeah,
I
his word
agree.
is law.
You
'Cause you
gotta
will
work
die
with
now.
your DM. Yeah, you gotta work. You gotta work with your DM. And if you're not having fun, then you probably shouldn't be in that campaign, or the DM shouldn't be DMing for you.
I think there's
It-
another part of this question that we didn't really touch on, but there's like, at what point did you decide it's on Sragg?
Yeah,
Have
that's
any
true.
of those moments?
You know what? For me, it's on Sragg happened like about 15 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think so. I
And-
vaguely remember having this
like-
conversation.
One of them was the freaking dungeon, like especially with the trolling. Oh, you're so annoying with the trolling. And I started to be like, at one point it clicked and I was like, I can use this.
It
So
happened. For
case
me, it
in
happened.
point, how long does it
after
take to
the
get to the end of that? I'll get to you in a second. But how long does it take to get to this end of the tunnel? Oh, trolley. Oh, it's 2 weeks. Done. Done. I'm going to spend the 2 weeks.
Meanwhile, Smurrrrh's building a treehouse.
Because I was trying to progress in time because I had to wait for a full moon. So I'm like, and I was like, and for the last like 2 weeks ahead of that, I'm like, oh my God, Shragg, let us fast forward. Yeah, so that was when I realized I can use this.
For me, it was after the Medusa encounter. I think it was around week 15 or so. And then I didn't really have my moment my moment came when in the same and by just luck came in the same moment where Colby had trivialized your Zug character or whatever his name was, but that Jessica girl comes out or whatever. She starts casting spells or whatever, and I just fly in and cut off her head. I was like, yeah, I cut off her head. Choo, crit,
Bitch,
and
please.
next, you're done. What were you saying about this girl? She was tough, eh? Okay.
Just wait till you meet her daddy.
We did. He's dead, isn't he?
What did he do?
What was the general concept or question behind this debate?
It's on Sragg moment where you
Oh, it's on Sragg.
I don't know
what
if you
point
had
did you
one.
decide, oh, it's on Sragg, or did you have, or yourself?
I don't know if I ever had it's on Sragg moment.
No, I don't think you would.
No, as I know, and even as a player, I don't know. I like the challenges thrown at me by the TM. I like to sort of see if I can outwit with with the character abilities or with the luck of the dice, because it's a combination of both. You can't just be like, oh well, I'm going to do this and it's going to work. There's always that chance aspect of D&D that you know what, it doesn't matter how hard you want this to succeed or you think you throw this finagling moment at the DM. If the dice don't agree with you, you just have to roll with it. You gotta be like, okay, well, I tried my best. I thought it was gonna go this way.
You know what?
but
To,
it's
to,
obviously
to add
not.
on to that, and it was something I used to do in the beginning weeks where I'm like, okay, I'd plan, like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to walk in and do this, and we're going to do this. And it didn't even involve dice. It was just like RP moments. And I forgot that I'm playing with 3 other people. So I'd come in and be like, dude, I'm going to do this. And like, what? Someone would say something and I'd be like, oh, shit.
That's not part of my plan.
My favorite.
Yeah. And it was just like, well, that ain't going to work anymore.
The tavern.
Let's just throw this away.
In Gelanthanar, where I was like, okay, I got to talk to the Mathis.
I know where this is going.
We're going to go to that. And then Colby and I sidle up to him and bring him over. First sees us across the bar. He's like, hey, want a drink? Looks over at the innkeeper that he's been like harassing
You know
for
what?
like, the last couple weeks.
If I had to think back, that was probably my favorite Smurrrrh moment.
Orders up drinks from this guy who hates him. He hands him poison. Smurrrrh downs it. Saves it. Other guy downs it. Dies instantly. He's like, well,
Yeah.
that was step 1.
Well-
So what do you guys want to do?
I'm
was
looking through
great.
my notes like, well, that ain't going to happen anymore. What was, like, so that was an example of a really interesting moment. Does anybody else have any interesting, like, scenes that played out or
Oh,
plot
yes.
twist? I had a bunch, but a couple of them stand out for me. One is when I dropped the rock on your demon.
How about Smurrrrh skinning the human?
Yes,
Wow.
that was an excellent scene. I really enjoyed that. And that was an example of one of those scenes. That was one of the ones where I messaged you. I'm like, I'm not really mad at you, dude. Because I was pissed.
There was a
in
lot of
character
real
review.
life controversy. I'm
Yeah.
really not mad at you, man.
So dropping the thing on the demon, and then one of the most recent ones that I really enjoyed was like connecting the dots of the get the soul, kill the book, give it to the witch, and it was like that chain of events that I was like, Yahtzee, we got it. And the best part about that, because we talked about it after I made that plan, was I'm like, Shrek, that's not planned, was it? He's like, no. And it was like that was entirely emergent component. Like it came out of the sum of the whole is greater than the parts.
That's a lot of the aspect that I like about it, is you can sort of sometimes facilitate things in that direction. Where you're like, was that really part of the plan, or did that just sort of work out the way in our favor? Yeah, I really like that aspect of the game.
Planned this, or he's
Yeah, no, it just sort of worked out that way.
What
My
about
favorite
you?
scene to play in was the tavern scene. I felt like it was enjoyable. I didn't
one was
feel
that?
like I feel like a lot of the scenes I was in this campaign or session rather, there was a lot of like you get good and then you have like a bad section to the rest of the scene kind of feel. Like there was positive and negative on each thing with my character. I don't feel like there was a lot of moments where it was just all positive. There was always like a balance within each thing. So I'd get a positive and then there'd be a negative attached to it in different ways.
Yep.
So there was that with a lot of the scenes that I had.
Your character had an interesting story arc, though, with
Yeah.
the family. I mean, you had a lot of you and your. I'm not trying to put words into your mouth or story in your mouth, but you in your own character's mind and your player's mind had an idea of your character's background and sort of specificity to where he was coming from, or his environment and that sort of thing. My character, I was sort of leaning aloof for the most part. I sort of wanted to see where the campaign was going and play him around that idea. And then every now and then I would toss an idea to Sragg and be like, what do you think of this concept of where we're going with Smurrrrh based on what's going on and how things are progressing? But I mean, that's not always conducive to the environment of what's happening. So yeah, it's definitely a different aspect, and yeah, it's more of a struggle for you than anything, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely, well, a lot of the scenes, it was like, even just trivial scenes, it was like, here's a positive thing for you, and here's your negative consequence. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, interesting. And
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of that, but that's just how I felt about a lot of, I'd say about 95% of the scenes I was in.
Did you enjoy that whole like conflict resolution aspect of your character, where like you sort of had an idea of where you were going with things?
In what way do you mean the conflict resolution?
Well, like you sort of had a general idea. Like it seemed to me personally, outside of the spectrum of what you actually had planned for your character, that you sort of had a general direction of what you already where you already wanted your character to go. And whereas I didn't, I was like, I don't know where the hell I'm going with this.
My character had goals, and I was always attempting to achieve them.
That's great.
And it was always on my mind. So it was always like, how does this affect my character, and how is this going to help him get closer to getting his goals?
And in that regard, as a character, like a Smurrrrh, I felt compelled to help you personally facilitate your story. I wanted to help you progress in your storyline as best I could without deviating from your general concept. I wanted to help you facilitate your goals, while also sort of, oh, that's a good idea. I like where he's going with that, but I'll give a little bit of a tangent this way in the event that he's done what he's doing, and we'll go this way.
That was a neat trick that you had used, Dave. Like there was the overarching kill the book, but kind of you intertwined the different personal character stories in a way that kind of fit and made sense, and that was really kind of interesting how that worked. Did that take a lot of planning on your part? Like, I'm assuming you had a lot of character or player interaction when it was their character's turn.
There was a whole lot of interaction with players and at least a solid 10 minutes of planning on my part. And,
Yeah. So this ties right back to the first section where he said, let the players figure out the majority of the campaign.
Afterwards, sit there and go, does that look cool? Can I throw a couple of clues in there? That's neat.
Yeah.
Now,
What do you want to do? Now, what am I going to put in your way? Your internet's crapping with that again.
Yeah, I think your internet is having a poop on the rest of the world right now.
Okay,
great.
So this is our second hour of talking nonstop, not even role playing. And I think we're gonna tie it up and maybe save some for a post Dark Heresy or a post Forgotten Fates episode. Just one more question. Did you enjoy your experience? I'll go first. Absolutely.
Yeah, if you're going to pose a question, pick who you're addressing the question to.
Why would we do that? Why would that be any different than any other part of our campaign? We just all jump in, stomp on each other's feet.
Right,
that's the way this works.
You're the freaking host. You're posting the videos. You do it.
Roll initiative.
Roll fucking
Oh,
answer
let's
initiative.
fucking roll initiative. Let's go.
Andre, did you enjoy?
Oh, absolutely. I
Nice.
absolutely did. You can put me on the spot all you want. Yeah, it was great. You know what? I put real life on hold in certain situations. I'm like, no, life, listen, I have to fucking roleplay tonight for this amount of time that is indefinite. To the,
Tell me that's
we
not
might
an
be playing
awkward
for 8 hours.
conversation too.
What's that?
So, tell me that's not an awkward conversation. Hey, yeah, you want to go to the movies? No, I'm
No.
gonna
I
sit at my
might-
computer and talk to my friends about an imaginary world for 8 hours
I
and
might
tell
be
stories.
role playing tonight. I don't know what the other people are doing, but it's a possibility. Oh man, no, but I love it to that extent. Where I really want to get together with you guys. You're a great group of people, and it's really fun to feed off of your creativity. And like I said, myself, I'm a creative person, so I really like to sort of go off in different tangents and explore my imagination and your imagination and feed off of that. I mean, that's what life's all about, as far as I'm concerned. Your experiences and your own mind. So, yeah.
Take note, about 11 o'clock, he reached the drunk stage of I love you all.
No, it's not even that. I mean, it is to some extent, but I mean, how do I facilitate that out of a drunk state? I mean, even if I'm not drunk or am drunk, yeah, it's fun. It really is fun.
He's in character.
Rick,
Yeah.
did you enjoy?
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I really enjoy creative processes. Like he said, I have dabbled in writing. So for me, creation of things comes quite readily, quite easily in some cases. Whereas, like, I mean, the Riclamin thing, I had ideas. They were just all just bullet points. And I'd sound them off Sragg, and Sragg would give me other things, and then we'd just go with it. And, like, there's, like, other NPCs and characters that have like full-fledged backstories because it just able to feed off of his creativity as well, as far as like coming up with ideas, and he'd be answer questions of yes
Can
or no, or
Can I ask
no,
you
I
a
don't think that.
question
Yep.
in that regard? What other NPCs did you have a part in facilitating?
I mean, not in this campaign, but I mean in backstory NPCs.
Okay.
So there's
Okay.
a lot of hidden NPCs that we haven't yet met, or
Oh, really? In this campaign, that sort of just didn't happen?
yep.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of NPCs that we just haven't run into that have like fully fleshed out personalities, backstories.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. How does that make you feel that you've created this like world that it just didn't happen?
I don't know. I mean, they
All that work for nothing.
No, like I really want to know. Like, does that frustrate you, or does that like?
no,
you're like,
no, not in any way. I mean, they could still come up at any point.
yeah.
It's not something that's going to be pigeonholed to this campaign. Plus, it's a generations thing, so
That's cool.
they could still come up in future campaigns through another means or something like that. So there's a lot of different characters that you could just totally like draw a story from, and
That's awesome.
it's not all good. There's
No.
a lot of bad in there, and it could be potentially like villainous or people working against our future characters or anything.
That's awesome.
So there's like a whole thing out there that we've never even touched on.
Oh, that's epic. How long ago have you how long have you been working with Sragg with it? I mean, Twitch community or YouTube community, whoever's watching this, I really don't know this information. I'm not just pulling it like for the sake of storyline.
Well, the stuff I wrote down on one of these sheets of paper is it's pretty old. It was before we even thought of starting a second campaign.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it was around the time we were starting Moondell, I think actually.
That's cool.
A little bit before we even think of establishing a city. It was actually just around the time we first got there.
That's really cool, man.
So that
Eh,
that stuff came and just like popped ideas into my head.
That's great. And see, and again, I always mention this. I'm not trying to be sappy or overly drunk or whatever. But like I really like to see your ideas and how your outside perspectives are manipulating this world that we've created, and off camera and out of game. I've been in this like voice chat with Sragg and Riclamin, and I've overheard them talk, and they're just so passionate about the ideas and the concepts that they have, and they just go off into these directions that are just amazing, and I love it. It's epic.
I think if I could ever be a fly on a wall adding to a campaign, I would definitely be a very useful member to add to someone else's campaign.
Yeah,
You know what?
Because you could come up with intrigue and a lot of different things as far as
The style
characters
and the kind of stuff you like to invent. I would love to see you co-campaign something or co-DM something where someone's running the action and you're just feeding in the environment and the NPCs and the story.
Because, like, I don't even know if I have it handy here.
I like how you look through your notes.
Oh,
Let
good!
me
I have this
check my
portfolio. Let me show it to you.
No, I just wanted to show you, like, just the random, like a page. It's a page, okay? It's basically just a page like I was writing on the
That's
Sragg.
cool.
And it's filled with, like, information just
Epic.
from me in a
Yes,
2-minute, 5-minute session, just like, here's the name of the character, here's what they got, here's where they're from, here's their age, here's their background, here's why they're here, here's why what they want, like just boom all the way down, and just random things, and I just come up with these things like on a whim or whatever, and I'm like,
Nice Sragg.
And then-
Isn't
yeah.
I was gonna say it's
and then
interesting.
sometimes I'm like, should I tell Sragg about this character because they could be really bad?
Yeah. No, that's great. If you do, it facilitates the story in both directions. Like good, bad. You gotta have it in there. I love it. It's good.
Yeah, so I do occasionally pick like out of that pool that I create, and I present ideas to Sragg, and he goes with them, and he does give me a lot of feedback, and it's like by the time I'm done chatting with Sragg, there's like this whole dynamic thing that we've made, or
That's
and it's like,
awesome.
wow, that's really crazy, and if you could just know the backstory to some of these secretive plots and stuff like that, you just know, because like I mean, it's out of the bag now. Like Riclamin, his character and his story was generated because his father was murdered, and he was like a masked lord of Waterdeep, and I guess he kind of knew that he was going to get murdered, so there was a lot of that where it was like, okay, I'm going to go with this, and that started as, okay, my father was murdered, he was in line to be with the throne, where can I do that in? And then Sragg's like, well, I can't really think of anything. Oh wait, well there is Waterdeep. And he's like, yes, how about Waterdeep? How does that sound? I'm like, oh, okay. And then I start to learn more and read about Waterdeep, and it's like, that's amazing. Let's go with that.
So you sort of had a general concept in mind when you were creating your character,
Yeah.
but you sort of were rolling with it as the story progressed, right? As you understood more of what was happening and
Right, exactly. So there was like a lot of different areas where it was like, I don't know where this could potentially happen. Please explain to me. Like, I'll give you what I want, and I'll present him with that. Like I said, like there's a succession of crown or a succession of and it's notable. So then he's like, okay, well, there can only be like this place, or this place. We're setting in this place, so then that can only be this place. And it's like, because I don't know the layout of the land, and he does with such crazy clarity. It's like he knows at least of a place.
Yeah.
He's heard of a place, or he remembers a place.
Yeah, or he can make up a place. Either way.
Yeah, or he can make up a place. And Moondell itself, like that fell into such a crazy set of circumstances as far as future characters and the lore. And
that's great.
And the way everything worked out. It was such I don't know if it was sheer luck, I guess. The setting and the place of the forest. Because I mean, we were like looking into the drow, because with your character Adara and stuff like that, it was like, well, how are we gonna get that in there? Because like that's such a hard thing to work in, and then it's like, well, wait a minute, where's this place located?
And see,
Interesting. Where's
what's
this
great
person?
about that is it sort of facilitated my ideas with the characters that I wanted to create after I sort of understood the scenarios we were in. I'm like, oh, the drow are involved. Well, let's look into this, and it sort of steered me in that direction. So, like, your own ideas and Sragg's ideas and your combination is sort of driven the campaign in that direction. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah, and you got to hear a little bit of that too when you were doing your creative process for Forgotten Fates. We were
Yeah.
just bouncing stuff off each other for a bit and just like, well, actually, here's what's happened in that area. Okay, interesting. Hey, interesting enough. And then I sent him a bunch of links about stuff for your character that he might want to look into. I don't know if he did or not.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah.
give you plot points and hide it from the rest of us because we shouldn't know about it, or even if you shouldn't know about it. I don't know how you wanted to do it, but yeah, I don't know what you guys ended up doing with that. I just kind of found like these interesting things where it was like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. I could totally make something with all this.
Yeah. Well, that's really
Yeah.
cool. And like I was saying earlier, it's sort of is more of a creative mishmash from everybody than specifically the DM's ideas. You sort of go with and work with the DM, and he sort of is the facilitation between you and the other characters because he sort of doesn't want to give away too much of what the other characters have given him, but works it all together.
It's really
Yeah.
cool because, and I mentioned this a bit before. It's like this little snowball or this little seed that starts, and it just starts rolling and just feeding and get bigger and bigger. Next thing you know, you've got this huge story. And if you look back at week one and said you're gonna go through and you're gonna flesh out your character's entire backstory, you're gonna create an entire town, go on an epic campaign it goes to the capital of the city, comes back. And you create a connection in a whole other town, and you have to create all that. You would have been like, "Are you insane?"
Exactly.
I have a name. That's as far as I got so far.
Yeah.
But
I agree
it's
with you
like-
completely. It's a lot easier to sort of roll with general ideas than specificity for the most part.
Yeah,
I have to say, from week one, I already knew that I wanted to establish a home base.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's still a general concept because
I
you didn't know a
know
whole
if
lot
it was even
about the
possible.
game.
Yeah.
That
I
it's
didn't
still
know if it was
allowed for a
possible.
lot of extras outside of that spectrum,
Yeah.
which is good.
and I mean it's much more. It's the minutia of your plan. Like, I want to create a town. So does it have a bar? Does it have a home? Does it have a church? Does, like, all those really tiny details when you're like, oh my god, I'm going to be working on this for weeks.
Yeah, it was totally a weekly thing.
Yeah.
And Sragg did a lot of it, like a lot.
But to go through it in
Towns
33
was-
weeks and have like little pieces being fed in, you're just like, oh yeah, this good, and it's just this creative process that just snowballs. It's really cool.
Well, creation of the town, I have to say that's all Sragg. He's been feeding points in, creating things in this game, adding to the next game.
But
There's
whether we
been
realize
moments
it,
where, like, we've come across and we've just randomly made things that go in, like Brent, and he wasn't supposed to exist.
I
all
think
sorts of things.
I think though, like, whether you realize it or not, and you can confirm or deny, Shrek, is that our actions and our kind of things that we say maybe as a whim, like as in funny, like, are becoming parts of the town, or at least sparking
Yeah.
your creative process.
What friends one Riclamin did last week, really. We were asking you what we should do with the thieves, and you wrote that new line where their hands are chopped off.
That was great. I love that. I really did. I was like, yeah.
I knew exactly what was happening with that. I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah.
not going to end well. Just to kind of get back to the original question and whether or not you guys answered if you enjoyed your experience, I definitely enjoyed it, and I found it changed the way I thought of role playing, and because anybody had ever told me, like, whenever anybody described tabletop RPG, Dungeons and Dragons, I'm like, oh, it sounds really cool. I really love the system and that kind of stuff, but I can't see myself just pretending to be another person. That just sounds weird. And at first, maybe it was a little bit, but then all of a sudden, like, when all that background stuff and all, like, the scene is set, it just, like, this switch flips in your head, and you're like, nope, I'm that person. I can do this. And it was a really interesting thing. Like, I used to detest in like a training course. Oh, we're gonna role play now. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sakes, really? We're gonna role play? And now it's like, you know what? Fucking bring it on. What's my motivation? Let's do this.
It really does. It turns into, like, I guess basically the best way to put it is an
And
actor.
and
I'm up there.
not an actor, but at least to just open your mind, because there's no way that I would consider myself even remotely good at acting, but to, or even even to use the word, I'd probably be embarrassed, but it flipped a switch in my head to where it was like, well, I can't pretend to be this person because I don't know this and I don't know this, and how would they react to this and how would they react to that? And then all of a sudden what flipped was like, wait a sec, if you don't tell me, I'm going to make it up.
You know what's funny about that? This is outside of the spectrum of our own game, but recently my wife was going for another job in her in her employ where she works, and she was telling me that there was a situation where they actually had to role play things where they basically said, okay, you are runner or the management of this hotel, and we're gonna role play a scenario with you, and you're gonna facilitate that. Go. And then they like basically send the other person in, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm here to get my room," and blah blah. And she has to go along with it. She basically was role playing along, saying, "Oh yeah, it's fine. We'll figure out the issue you're having. And there's a coffee machine over there. Feel free to help yourself to some coffee."
It's really neat stuff like that. Like, that's the switch that flipped, because before I would be like, well, is there a coffee machine? I don't know. They didn't say there's one. Is there one? But what happened was like, you know what? They didn't say. There's a coffee machine.
It gives you the power.
My name is so-and-so. You're gonna do this, and then when they come up and like, what were you thinking? It's like, you're like, well, this happened, and I was really thinking like you just have this whole background create, and like it totally justifies all your decisions, and you're just like, that's why, and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And
like,
she told me, and
one of my favorite things.
The other person was like, "Oh, thanks, there's coffee. Okay, I'll go along."
Like, it's just,
didn't deny it.
it was like one of my favorite situations where that happened was the beekeeper thing.
Okay, the whole actor. When I said that earlier, that was.
And he's having internet issues. Is anybody surprised? I'll continue the beekeeper thing while he hunts down his internet
actually,
service
I was just going to
provider.
add into that. I was going to say that, there's a large part of me that really loves the creative process that I don't get to explore or enjoy enough, just because, I have children now and I'm older and I have responsibilities. It's really irritating that I don't get to explore that creative process that I so enjoy, because I always have enjoyed it. I mean, I have penned things in the past, like I said, and I've written many different things for my own personal, like, not to be shared, basically, because I don't know. I don't think I would want anyone to read what I do, because that's just not how I am.
Right.
But I mean, that creative process within me has been fueled by playing with you guys, and it's just been like just a joy for me to play along, and that's what I most enjoyed, because having a creative outlet for me is definitely something that I wasn't really getting as a day-to-day thing, like just going to work and then coming home and doing whatever. There wasn't really anything, and the video games kind of touch on it slightly, but not enough. I mean, because they give you like such a cookie cutter build or a cookie cutter thing, and here's what you are, and you can't deviate from it, so you can't really like inject too much creative process to anything. But injecting creative process to anything is something that I always enjoy immensely.
High five to that, bro.
High five, bro. Yeah. So yeah, like the beekeeper thing was like my favorite example of that, where it was like, I'm just gonna make up why I know that.
Your expression
I train
when
beekeepers.
When that came up, you were like, "Yeah, I'm a beekeeper." And you were like, no, yeah. Actually, I'm going to explain it now.
And you know what? That was after like watching, and this is really a cool other system, and I think maybe in a couple of seasons we could probably try it out. And that's the Dungeon World system, where it's entirely narrative based. And I had just watched a bunch of shows with that, and it was just, it was really, it just fueled like, oh, I can do this and I can do this, and why not? Why can't I do this? Sure. Like, there's some limitations, but it's like, well, can't hurt to try.
Yeah. Yeah, and to any extent, in any tabletop game, if you have an idea for your character and the DM challenges what you think your character can do or say, think outside the box and facilitate the storyline behind it to reinforce your ideas. Make your DM agree with what
That's
you
exactly
are saying
what that
regarding your
was. It
character.
was like, I am going to sell this bullshit.
Sell it. You have to sell it.
I am selling what I'm smoking. Now,
if you can't sell it, you're not gonna get it.
Yeah. Now, Sragg, what was your, or did you enjoy the experience?
No.
No? Okay. We'll not see you next season. And we will replace you for Forgotten Fates. Thank you for trying. Thank you for putting up with us.
I loved it. It was awesome. And I think going to have even more fun with the next one. Because there'll be even less for me to do then. I'll just throw you some more paper and sit back and let's run around and kill yourself. No.
Your
just have a more classic experience.
Your internet's so bad.
We're gonna have to switch over to Skype in like a couple minutes.
Okay.
One other thing I want to say with
last thoughts, and that's it. We're done.
My character going forward, I mean, obviously we don't know what happened to Smurrrrh. My character going forward, I think, is going to attempt to build on the town. That's his plan. That's his job. I can't really see him doing anything else outside of that because the immediate threats have been removed. There are still some other things that might be pressing or brewing in the background, but at the moment, that city needs to be looked after, and I think that's what my character's doing. What do you think your character's doing, Colby?
Colby is, I think, obviously tending to the spiritual needs of the town. He's also probably going to act as, whether you like it or not, your advisor on how he thinks the town should be built and certain tenets that he thinks should be followed, such as sanctuary for all and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's basically...
I think it's already going down that path.
I think it is, but if there's ever, like, he'd definitely be, like, very, I wouldn't say PC. What would he be? He's very open and would be on, not to say that... Accepting, and not to say that your character ever would be, like, a bigot or a racist or anything like that, but he will definitely... Anything that hints at that, he would definitely be like, no, that ain't gonna happen. Like, I don't care if they're...
Werewolves. He'd probably have an issue with werewolves.
Yeah.
As much as you are pro-werewolf.
Yeah, so, like, if there's ever a thing where you try to, like, deny peaceful lycanthropes from entering the city or taking up refuge, he'd be right there saying no. Until they do something bad...
Seize their weapons!
They're welcome. So, that's what he's doing. He's finishing up building the church. We discussed he can never really finish his task or else he will ascend. So part of his overarching goal is to finish the church. So he's actually going to take the cornerstone or the one piece of the brick and never put it in.
Fair enough.
Interesting.
And more child.
Sragg.
Didn't hear a word you said, Sragg. What is Smurrrrh doing? We don't know. Smurrrrh is like... learn to teleport himself. We're gonna make up the story, you and I, Rick.
Smurrrrh has learned. You want me to do the narrative because I know what happened.
No. I think it's a mystery.
Do you want to just do the intrigue without giving us anything?
Yeah. Well, don't worry. I got it all. It's all under wraps. If anyone wants to know what's happened to Smurrrrh, stay tuned because.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
Nice hook.
Things have been written and things have not been written. So you'll have to stay tuned to find out.
Dun dun dun. Yep. Any other final thoughts, anybody?
No?
No, great.
What would you rather be doing for the past 33 weeks?
Nothing. I'd rather be doing nothing other than this.
Nope.
Oh, you know what? Just for Sragg, a quick rundown. He wanted to know what was your favorite enemy or monster?
I'm gonna say the book for me, just because it was all consuming.
The book? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Sragg there? Do we have audio with you, Sragg?
He can hear us. He can't respond, so you
animated.
can say anything, and he can't.
So we can just like point him in directions.
Yeah, I guess my favorite enemy. You know what? My favorite enemy is the one we never fought. Remember that eyeball creature that he said was in store for us?
I don't remember that.
The one we ran away from?
I just dispatched a dragon within like a second. And he had this like eyeball creature come after us. I'm going to say that's my most favorite enemy because I want to know what the enemy does.
Oh, right. I know what you're talking about. Vaguely, I remember that.
It had like eyeballs that like popped up in like tentacles over above the trees.
Yeah, the one we
I
hauled
know
ass
to
away.
what you're referring.
Oh yeah, we were like, fuck this shit, we're out of here.
And we ain't got time for that.
We ain't got
We
time
got
for
a
this
book
shit.
to kill.
We got books on our mind, yo. Read a book.
Anybody else? Anything else?
Only other thing I'd add is my most favorite encounter was against the priest. When we came out of the well.
Evil Colby's.
Yeah, the Palurites or whatever, because they felt like they had like a shit ton of hit points, but you could hit them. And
What about the
like,
dragon that you
holy crap.
assassinated with a couple swipes of your sword, Captain Angel?
Let's not talk about that.
Okay. We have been
Kind of a hard
talking
point
for
for
way
Sragg.
too long, so I'm going to wrap this puppy up. Thank you, everybody who watched. Of course, we watched it live. We, of course, love reading your comments and participating with you. Those of you on YouTube, if you watch this all the way to the end, you must really like us, because this is us talking for 2.5 hours. That's crazy.
We're boring as shit.
That's awesome. Click like and subscribe, comment. You know what? Ask us any questions that maybe we didn't answer, and we'll answer them on YouTube. We will be coming back next week with Forgotten Fates, right? No?
Yeah, boy.
I think so.
Someone confirm that for me.
Hey, there's Sragg. He's
before the
there,
end of the
audio.
show. We'll be coming back next week with Forgotten Fates, hopefully, which is our other campaign set. How many years in the future?
50 about.
It is set approximately 50 years in the future of where this campaign ended in the now, I guess, full-fledged city of Moondell.
Let's call it the post-apocalyptic future.
There's been no apocalypse. No apocalypse. That is a whole
Why
other
not? I'm
So-
trying to gain, like, you know.
We will be
viewership.
alternating between Forgotten Fates and our Dark Heresy campaign. It's one of those next week. The Dark Heresy, of course, is a Warhammer 40k.
Yeah, Dark Heresy, where you can watch my character roll for shit.
Role-playing game. It's a Dark Heresy Warhammer 40k role-playing game. For those of you that might have missed last week or don't know what happened, if you want to go watch it, Smurrrrh literally shot Sragg's character every single round. That was 2 weeks ago. Like, literally, every single time he missed and shot Eli instead of the mob.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Forgotten Fates takes place in the year 1373. It's the year of the rogue dragons. It's roughly taking place in the springtime is when it starts off.
And if
And I'll get a Shadowrun campaign set up for you guys in the near future. We'll make these guys roll in the dystopian future and kill some guys. We'll get on that. Don't worry, it'll come.
If anybody's interested in maybe appearing in one of the shows, those of you watching on YouTube or on Twitch, PM me on Twitch or message me on YouTube, and maybe we can work you in for 1 week. That'd be kind of cool.
And what's your email?
Yeah, we're easy going. We're not a bunch of snobs.
What's your
all depends?
what's your
Maybe
No, we can figure all that
All
stuff out
depends.
once they message me.
Yeah.
Okay, but what's your contact?
Just they're gonna do it through Twitch.
Yeah, do it through Twitch.
Just a preview.
He'll
of
do
what
it.
you
He'll
can
figure it
expect. on Forgotten Fates is up on the screen right now. This is, what is your character's name, Smurrrrh?
In which game?
Forgotten Fates.
Forgotten Fates and Dara Umbrera.
What you're seeing right now is our rogue's rendition of Adara. Adara? What? What was your name?
Umbrera.
Okay.
And Dara
Andre's
Umbrera.
new character in Forgotten Fates.
Cleric.
And I think he did an amazing job of her. He drew all our characters.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see you guys later. Comment, subscribe, like, all that fun stuff. Bye.